From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
Welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. We are, of course, proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find all of our old episodes, all of our upcoming episodes, and all of our previous episodes at yourunpodcast.com. While you're there, please do check out some of the other shows on the You Run Podcast Network. They are all fantastic. With me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast, and he picked a movie that is way fucking better than Instant Death, and his name is Sean. Sean, how are you today?
We have to give the audience member credit, and I feel bad because now I don't know who it was that suggested that I don't know if they suggested we watch this, but they said, this movie's a good one. And John, Serrano's Got Religion. Give me the word, and I'll send him to his maker.
Was this a listener request? I don't remember that.
It came up in the question of the week, and someone said it. They're like, "Oh, rapid fire showdown in Little Tokyo," and I was like, "Oh, rapid fire, hell yeah!"
I don't remember that, but so I if you're listening to this and you're the one that suggested that, please leave us a comment. I also thank you for that. And I already fucked up because I had a quote I was going to use too, but I'm not going to do that now. So I wrote it down. Doesn't matter. So
you wrote it down and everything, and you just gave up.
I wrote it down. Yeah, that's okay. So what have you been watching this week, Sean?
Haven't had a lot of chance to watch a lot of stuff. Again, baseball season, Tigers are actually good, so I've been watching them a lot. I've been playing a game. I'll just mention it briefly. Dune Awakening. It's based on the Dune franchise, but more of the movies, I think. It's kind of if Paul Atreides hadn't been a Paul and had been a female and what would have happened and all this stuff. So it's kind of like an alternate dimension. All the Fremen on Arrakis are wiped out, or so you think. And it's kind of like a live service MMO that you don't pay a subscription for. So basically it's online. You log into a server. You can play with your friends or you can play with randos. You're always assigned to that server. And you build like your base and you build your vehicles and you do little quests and go on adventures and all this stuff. It's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play something that's decent and play with my friends that I play games with. Other than that, watching wise, I talked about it briefly a couple weeks ago, the Mortician, which I believe is on Max. I finished that, and I'm not even gonna really talk about it because I don't want to spoil it. I would say this about it. It's a 3-episode limited series. So think a 3-hour thing. And I want to say the first episode is probably like the most intriguing because that's where they lay the groundwork. That's where you start to hook you. Yeah. They want to try and hook you and they want to tell you the thing. And there's like a little bit of a cliffhanger. I kind of mentioned before how once the guy that took over the cremation service started going, they went from 167 cremations to like, I don't know, 500 or something like, it was, and then eventually by 3 years later, they were in the thousands. So again, you can imagine how they get to that. I would recommend it. So I'll just cut to the chase. I would recommend it. It's got a lot of crazy shit comes up in that. And it's one of those things you have to kind of just see or hear to just believe it because it's nuts. And then the other thing I'll talk about is I got a chance today because I wanted to talk about another thing. I watched a movie called Timestalkers, which is a TV movie from 1986, I want to say. It's got William Devane, Klaus Kinski, Lauren Hutton, and then like Danny Pintaro has a real small role. He was the kid in Who's the Boss. It's got, what was that guy's name? I forget his name. The guy that was Bob from the original Batman movie with Michael Keaton, like the Joker's henchman guy. Oh, he's in it for a short amount of time. Anyways, It's basically William Devane plays this history professor. And at the beginning of the movie, the very beginning, like within the first 5 minutes, he's playing with this kid and his wife, well, he wasn't playing with his wife, but he's playing with his kid who's Danny Pintaro. And they get in the car, the wife and son get in the car and they back up. And as they live on like almost like a busy street. And as they're backing up, you hear in the background these police sirens, and William Devane goes in the house and he hears these police sirens getting closer and closer. And this crazy like guy that's trying to get away from the cops like hits this hill and his car does a cartwheel and crashes into his wife and kid's car and it explodes, right? And they're dead. So he's kind of all
I'm sorry. Back, you said the car did a cartwheel?
Yeah, like hits the ramp and it like goes, does an ass over apple cart kind of like end over end thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I'm going to probably put something on Blue Sky that shows just the very beginning and the very end of this movie because it's kind of, it's kind of humorous in a way, you know. I'll just post it. You can watch it. When the show's posted, that clip will be posted. Anyways, so they die and he's a history professor that,
as you do.
Yeah, to lift his spirits, John Ratzenberger is his friend, and they go to this auction and they buy this Old West set, like these chests. So William Devane, history professor, buys these chests, and as they're showing the stuff in the auction, they do these flashbacks to like 1886, and Klaus Kinski is basically a time traveler who takes a 357 Magnum, which was made in the 80s, and he takes it to the Old West, and he gets caught in this picture, like a tintype picture. And in the chest, in the trunk, one of the trunks that William Devane gets is the picture of him with this 357 Magnum. So he's like, this gun is from like the 1970s or 80s. How did it show up in this thing? And then Lauren Hutton all of a sudden shows up, and she's like interested in this paper that he published about is time travel possible or whatever. Well, come to find out, she's from the future. She's from like 600 years in the future. And they're doing this little time jump thing where they're trying to catch Klaus Kinski because Klaus Kinski is from the future and he helped develop this time travel thing. And his partner is Lauren Hutton's father. This is so complicated. I apologize.
I gotta say, I'm gonna.
Yeah, please.
Just for a moment,
please
interrupt you.
Indulge the audience.
You sold me with car doing cartwheel, and you lost me immediately after car doing cartwheel.
Yeah, so. It's interesting, but it's not very entertaining. It wasn't like I'm not going to recommend it. It was a TV movie, right? But if you like Klaus Kinski, he Klaus Kinski's it up. You know, he mugs the camera and acts crazy and shit. Anyways, he goes back to the past to take revenge on his partner because his partner wouldn't let him just have the time travel device and just do whatever he wanted with it. So he's pissed off because the guy's like, I'm the guy that's supposed to tell you can't do this. So he's going to try and wipe out his entire family line from like the 1800s and forward. So that's like the plot of this movie. Like that's the whole crux of it. So I apologize if you were ever going to go on YouTube and look up Timestalkers from 1886 and you were going to watch this movie. I just kind of ruined it for you. But yeah, so that was a bit of a stinker, a bit of a snooze fest. And that's what I've been watching, John. What have you been watching?
Nothing that interesting, unfortunately. There's a new series on Netflix that's called Trainwreck, and I think it's kind of the same premise of
it's the Woodstock.
Untold stories.
It's the Woodstock.
Well, that was one of them. Well, that one's way better because I think that was 3 episodes, and that just goes way more in depth. There's 3 new episodes that are out now, like 3 different subjects, 3 new episodes. I've watched 2 of the 3 of them, and I feel like these are a lot closer to the Untold documentaries that they put up, but they're not dealing with sports stories. At least they haven't yet. So the first one that I watched was the documentary about Astroworld, which not Astroworld theme park, that 12 flags, however many flags, theme park that closed way back when, the infamous Travis Scott concert where I think it was 8 people died because of, well, just horrible fucking planning and
negligence.
Yeah, that's really the best way to put it. I found that one to be moderately interesting, but it is kind of a fuck of a bummer documentary too, because so I already knew a little bit about that particular incident as far as what happened, like a little bit behind the scenes with it. I brought up Disgraceland before, and he did an episode about Astroworld, and he goes pretty in depth about it, and he does it better because he's telling you things from the artist's point, because he was in touring bands and stuff, so he's telling you things from the art, what the artist should have done as opposed to what he did do. He basically calls out Travis Scott on bullshit in so many words and says like, no, you might not have known exactly what was happening, but you knew something was happening, and you should have fucking stopped your show regardless of what other people said or did or whatever. You should have been the fucking adult. And of course, like, they don't have Travis Scott on this documentary to talk for himself. They have a couple like clips of him from archival footage and whatnot around the event. But it just really paints this picture that, I mean, newsflash, Live Nation and Ticketmaster does not give a fuck about you or your safety, and they're going to continue to price gouge you and not give a fuck about you or your safety, because apparently you could die and they'll just settle out of court with you.
Yeah.
Or with your, it's presumably your family. If you're dead, I guess they're not settling. Yeah. So, like I said, it's moderately interesting. It does tell you, like, they get the guy who, he wasn't the safety inspector for that particular concert, but I guess he's like Live Nation's like head security guy. Like, he opens the documentary with like, I'm so-and-so, I'm a safety something inspector, and I am the last person you want to go to a concert with because you will have absolutely no fun. I'm like, okay. And it's the most interesting thing about it is you almost see the planning perspective of what should be for some of these gigantic concerts, because he's talking about things like how people enter certain different points of like the stage, not the stages, but like the viewing area, I guess, for each individual stage, how they should be able to exit areas, potential traps and hazards and things like that. That I mean, I guess if that's your job, you're paid to think about those things. But like, I just like, for those big concerts, I'm like, it's just a big fucking field and like, hope you don't die. You know, it's kind of what I always thought with it. I'm like, no, they actually should have planning that go. It makes sense that they have planning to go into this and someone who knows what they're talking about. And he's really interesting to listen to and hear like that side of it. Cause I can't think of another time where I've heard that type of discussion happen on a documentary. But at the end of the day, like, you leave it like, this is a fucking like bummer of a story, because it's really just like 8 kids who just died unnecessarily. All they wanted to do is go to some concert and have fun. And that's not what happened. And they got a lot of people that are like, they got maybe, I don't remember exactly. It's like 5 to 8 people that were there and got pretty bad injuries, but survived, or were like there with people that did pass away from it. And there's stories for kids who are like probably in their mid-20s now, they're fucking tragic. Like, that just sucks that you have to carry that. Like, this one kid was like, I had a scholarship to go play at basketball at, I don't remember what school it was, but some like school that you've heard of, not like, you know, Schoolcraft or something. He's like, I can't even like motivate myself to do anything. Like, he just basically, he didn't say this, but he basically paints a picture like, all I do is sit in my room and be depressed now. I'm like, oh, that sucks. So you went to go to a concert and now you
someone
literally
that you
are
like that you probably somewhat idolized,
and now you're just like clinically depressed. It's worth watching, but it's one of those like, don't go in expecting a feel good story. The other one that I watched, which is not a feel good story, but you have a lot more fun with because he's such a character of a human being, is about Rob Ford, which is the former mayor of Toronto, who has a lot of things that remind you of Chris Farley, except he's a politician. He's like a mix of Chris Farley and Donald Trump is basically what he is. And they break down in about 50 minutes his like rise to office, his crack, addiction, I don't know. I guess it'd be up to him to determine if he's an addict or not, but he was using crack as a elected official. So I guess that paints him as an addict, or painted him as an addict. And then how he still managed to get reelected through all that. And then it like in the last 5 minutes goes through like a crash course of like, oh yeah, he died of something totally unrelated to crack or anything like he died of cancer, which maybe crack caused that. I don't really know. That one's just interesting because you watch it. One, you're like, this happened just north of us. Like, Toronto for us is like, what, an hour drive?
No, it's
let's
more
take
than
the
that.
border. Let's take the border out of it. Like, hour and a half drive, something like that. If you could just go right through the bridge, it's not a long drive, is my point. And we watched all this unfold, and we still have elected, you know, the president that we have now twice, even though it's the same bullshit that they went through. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, this guy's just such a like whack job that you're like, watching it from afar and like in the rear view mirror, you're like, I hope that one, we don't destroy ourselves over the next 4 years, but I hope we can look back and just kind of laugh at this bullshit. Like, administration, because that's kind of what I'm doing at Toronto right now. I feel like I'm not going to be able to do that with our situation currently, but I don't know. If Donald Trump becomes addicted to crack, I would probably find some humor in that. So,
no comment. Secret Service, you can email us at.
I didn't say I wanted anything. I'm pretty sure they already know where we are. That was all I really watched this week, though. I mean, we did our Frankenstein's night this week, so we both watched, Nightmare Beach again. That was a lot of fun. We watched Hangman again, which was a lot of fun.
Hangman is the best fun.
Confused several people at a bar, and I think with that in mind, we're going to kind of just run right into this week's title, because I don't have anything else to cover.
Let's run right into that title.
We'll run into it. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about Rapid Fire. Run, Fire.
Hey folks, Sean here. Are you a horror fan? Get your fix with the LK the Horror Nerd podcast. Step into the world of spine-tingling thrills, chilling tales, and deep dives into everything horror with the LK the Horror Nerd podcast. Hosted by the incredible Lorelei Kerouac, this show offers a fresh, inclusive perspective on the genre we all know and love. Each episode is a unique mix of movie reviews, TV show breakdowns, book recommendations, video game critiques, and more. With insightful discussions, expert interviews, and a passionate take on horror news, LK the Horror Nerd brings the spooky straight to your ears. Whether you're into blood-curdling scares or thoughtful genre analysis, LK the Horror Nerd has something for you. You can check out LK and the other fine podcasts at yourunpodcast.com.
Okay, so we are back, and as mentioned, we're going to be talking about the movie Rapid Fire. We do start with the third-party review, and this review is from an anonymous person, but it's probably the most important third-party review that I've read in at least a week. And this person gives this movie 4 stars out of 5, and they say, "This is a proper, cool, sit back and munch your hot dog film. Unfortunately, most of us will only come across it late on Saturday night while watching BBC." Again, 4 out of 5 stars.
I like the idea that BBC would be showing this.
I like the idea of, I've heard the term popcorn movie quite a few times, especially in regard to this kind of movie. I've never heard of a munch your hot dog film, but I like that. So, and that kind of fits what we talk about. Right.
Exactly.
So, Sean, what is Rapid Fire all about?
All right, so for that, we go over to IMDb. We type in the words Rapid Fire. We don't pick the Joe Spinell movie from 1989 called Rapid Fire. We picked the one from 1992. It's got an R rating. It clocks in at an hour and 35 minutes. It gets a 6.3 out of 10 with 11,000 ratings, which is a high point for probably at least the last month. It doesn't have any popularity rating, so we can get around that. And then we go to the storyline of the plot. Never know which one's which, but they wouldn't put it on top if they didn't want it read first, right? It says, when student Jake Lowe witnesses a killing, he finds himself caught between 2 feuding drug lords. Betrayed and set up by federal agents, the only person he can trust is Ryan, a Chicago cop who reminds Jake of his deceased father. And if we scroll on down to the storyline, which I guess makes the other one the plot, it says, when student Jake Lowe witnesses a killing, he finds himself caught between 2 feuding drug lords. Betrayed and set up by federal agents protecting him, the only one he can trust is Ryan, a single-minded cop who reminds Jake of his deceased father. To clear his name, Jake agrees to help Ryan bring down the drug lords, and that comes care of Jeff Hansen. You can reach him at jmh@umich.edu.
I got to say, for a plot on IMDb, that's pretty close to what my Cliff Notes would have been.
Yeah, I think the only
that's good.
addition that I have is probably that's a good wrap up.
I would have taken the reminds him of his deceased father part out, because they might mention that like several things in this movie, but I don't feel like that really plays a big role in what happens in this movie.
It doesn't play a big role, but I feel like it is kind of a plot point, because they start to see each other. Yeah, they just kind of start to see each other as like Jake sees, I'm going to call him Mace, because I think his name is Mace Ryan, but he's called Mace throughout the movie. I think that Jake sees Mace as more of like the father figure that not that he didn't have, and Mace sees Jake as this like a son or like a disciple or something.
Yeah. or something is definitely right. But we're going to get into that. Before we do, who is in this movie that we are talking about this week?
There's a pretty extensive cast, and I'm just going to go off of kind of who I recognize and the people that I know from this movie. And I'm going to say off the bat that this has a few Seagal connections, actually. Some of these guys are in a few Seagal movies. So first and foremost, we have Jake.
There's a lot of Big Trouble in Little China connections, too.
I think with the way the cast is set up, it kind of,
Yeah.
You get a lot of that crossover. But we'll start off. First and foremost, we have Brandon Lee. He plays Jake Lowe. He is Bruce Lee's son. He is the original Crow from The Crow. He's also in Big Trouble in Little Tokyo, I believe is the movie. And this is his first big budget starring role. Now, it's not his first starring role. I think, like, technically his first starring role was, what is it called? Laser Vision or something? Laser Time? Something like that.
Laser Mission?
Laser Mission. There we go.
Laser Mission.
Yeah,
There's
Laser Mission.
Legacy of Rage, which I'm going to have to find at some point soon because that just sounds fun. I don't see any of these other ones ever connected here for sure.
And I don't think he's a star of Legacy of Rage. I think he's just kind of in it. But anyways, I digress.
It's on the poster.
Yeah, but Adam Sandler's in the poster for Overboard. He's not. He's in that movie for like 10 minutes.
Amazed you made it 10 minutes into that movie.
Yeah, I didn't. I knew that. Powers Booth plays Mace. He was in Sin City. He was in Sudden Death. He was in MacGruber. Sudden Death, the Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle. We've got Nick Mancuso, who plays Antonio Serrano. He was Tom Breaker from Under Siege 1 and 2. He's Nick from Death Ship, and not the 2000s Death Ship, some like 1980s Death Ship. We have Tai Ma, who plays Kinman. He was in True Justice, which is Steven Seagal's TV show. Rush Hour 3, RoboCop 2, The Money Pit. We've got Raymond J. Barry, who plays Agent Stewart. He plays seemingly like a cop in everything. He was in Dewey Cox. He was Pa Cox in Dewey Cox. He was in Training Day, Cool Runnings, Born on the 4th of July, and about 120 other things. We've got Dustin Nguyen, who plays Paul. A real small part. You will know him from 21 Jump Street, TV's Warrior, and VIP with Pamela Anderson. And then we have Leong, who is basically the mean Asian martial arts guy in any movie that calls for a mean Asian martial arts guy. So he's been in, I don't know, a ton of shit. He's been in Lethal Weapon. I feel like he was in like Die Hard. Yeah, he was definitely in Die Hard. So he's kind of a martial arts character actor. And then there's like a lot of people you'll just see kind of milling around that you're like, oh, that guy's in this. So this is not a huge big budget movie.
If you watch action movies,
yeah, you'll recognize.
If you watch action movies in the 80s or the 90s, you'll see a lot of people who, much like in this movie, they show up for a little bit and either get their ass kicked or get blown away.
$10 million budget, supposedly.
Worth every penny. So,
you want to know a little trivia, John? We got a little trivia for you.
Let's do it. Do it.
A spec script was purchased while Lee was filming The Crow, while Brandon Lee was filming The Crow, and the script was being worked to be a rapid fire sequel. But during the filming of The Crow, Brandon Lee died. So the film, the plot or whatever, the story was reworked from that script. The original script called for a police detective who was forced by a mad bomber to run around the city and find bombs. And the only help that detective had was a shop owner who got involved by accident. Can you guess the movie?
Die Hard 3.
Yeah. The script was called Simon Says, and it was eventually reworked into Die Hard with a Vengeance. That's pretty crazy. Yep. Die Hard with a Vengeance. It seems like that script got kind of passed around a lot to be something, because I think they also wanted to use that as Lethal Weapon 4.
Makes sense. Hot take. I still think Die Hard 3 is the best of the Die Hard movies.
1, 2, and 3 are really good movies. And I think 3 and 1 for me are really close, but I think 3 might edge out 1 just a little bit.
I think 3 edges out. This isn't a Die Hard episode, but correct. I think 3 edges out 1 just a little bit because I like the Samuel L. Jackson character a lot, and I like how he plays off Willis's character in that. For whatever it's worth, I enjoy Die Hard 4 as well. 5 is the one. I think they made 6 of those. Yeah. But the one when they go to Russia is not entertaining to me.
Live free or die hard. That's 4, I think.
Yeah, I think that's 4. That was the last one that I liked was 4.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, I digress. So we usually start by talking about how we find stuff, and I found this by Sean telling me to watch it this week. So that's my story with it. I'm glad that he did, Do you have a backstory with this one?
Yeah, so like in the late 80s, early 90s, like basically when VHS got to be popular, this is like a real origin story for me for a lot of things, is my sister is 10 years older than me, and I've mentioned that a few times on this show, and she really got into this kick. I think that she liked all these action films because the guys were good looking. Like she liked Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, she liked Brandon Lee, she liked, who else? Like, she wasn't so much into Stallone and Schwarzenegger, but like Michael Pare movies, who Michael Pare is in Streets of Fire, and I think he's in a few things. Oh, the Philadelphia Experiment, I think, was him. And just basically like leading men hunks. Like she liked, not that Christopher Lambert, not Lambert, was a hunk, but she liked Highlander. You know, she liked those kinds of things. She still does. She's not with us anymore, but I think she might still like him. I don't know. But that was really my first introduction. I remember actually going to the theater to see this movie because, you know, we were looking forward to it coming out. And then watching it countless times on VHS, having my parents would like go bowling or something on Saturday nights, and we'd rent movies and watch movies together and stuff. So, and she lived at home for a while. She lived at home for a long time, kind of. So, you know, being 10 years older than me, I think she lived at home till I was almost 18. So, you know,
Jesus.
Yeah. She went to college and came back, and I'm not going to make excuses for her, you know. It's her life is her life. But yeah, so she went and came back, and we would hang out. And I remember like in junior high, I might be allowed to skip a day, you know, and we'd go out and do stuff. So we had a pretty close relationship, and movies, watching a lot of movies, watching a lot of ninja movies, action movies, sci-fi movies. Like she's the first person I saw the Terminator with when I was like 9 or 10. So renting the movie and bringing it home. The VHS brought a lot of movies into the house that I probably never would have seen. And we rented a lot of shit just so, because it was novelty. You know, it was novel at the time.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's what was great about that era is you just rent a bunch of shit. You rent it for all the right or wrong reasons at the same time. I don't know if this is still what people do with like streaming because it's such a different landscape, but like, you know, I've said it a million times, I'll watch a movie because Linnea Quigley's in it. What do you mean she's only in it for 3 seconds? Like, I'm still going to watch it for that 3 seconds. It sounds like the same general principle, just you're flipping genders. And I can't blame anyone for that.
I mean, there aren't a lot of action movies with women starring in them either.
Yeah, that's true. Even now, there's really not. At least not.
We get like 1 or 2 a year, and it's like a big fucking deal when it happens, you know?
Or it's like a comic book movie or something.
Yeah. I mean, there aren't a lot of Cynthia Rothrocks out there making movies. Maybe there are, and we just don't know about them, but, you know, that's just one to name.
Leave that in the comments. Female-led action movies, leave them in the comments. We'd like to, we will definitely take a look into that. Like I said, I just discovered this, that I feel like I known of this, but like Brandon Lee, admittedly, for me, so I'm not a big fan of The Crow. I respect what it is. It's just it never really worked for me. Like I understand people love the shit out of that movie. It's one of those movies I just kind of watch and get okay. I don't really see why you're in love with it. I'm glad you like it, but whatever. So I think because I never like got into that movie, I don't want to say that I ignored Brandon Lee, but I kind of did because I never really pursued
the only thing you knew him from.
Right. And I mean, I guess I should have known he probably had other roles, you know, ahead of that. I never really put the effort into it to find out. So this has opened a door that I'm definitely going to want to try to look at a couple other things of his, like Laser Mission or whatever the hell it was and whatnot. And I got to say, like, you know, just to lead this off as far as stuff that we're going to get into, I'm going to tell you right out the gate, there is so much shit that happens in this movie, no matter how long we talk about this. If you like 80s and 90s style action movies, just watch this movie, because no matter how much we cover on this, because we won't go the length that we won't talk for an hour and a half about it, we will forget something that is an absolutely comically amazing scene that is in this movie. I found myself pretty fucking impressed with a lot of the stunt. Like, there's a scene really early in the movie where, you know, he's in his first of many karate gunfight, like melee battles that are going on throughout this movie, and this dude like comes down the stairs. I think he's got like a gun or something like that, and you see Brandon Lee just like ninja kick the shit out of all the banister like support beams, and he goes through like 5 of these support poles and just like kneecaps the shit out of this dude, sending him plummeting down the stairs face first. I was like, okay, that was pretty fucking cool. I mean, I was already in on this, but like that scene right there, I'm like, I'm so in for this movie. Whatever the fuck's gonna happen for the rest of this movie, I'm all for it. And it's an interesting movie because the pacing in it, it's like all gas with very minimal braking through this entire movie. The acting in it is not necessarily great, but it's not out of place. Like it for what this movie is, like it's not a complaint.
It's action movie acting.
They don't.
It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to get Laurence Olivier or anything, Shakespeare, but you're going to. It's serviceable for
it's
an
playing
action
up
movie.
stereotypes. It's playing up stereotypes like all the way around. Like the cops are very much so playing up cop stereotypes. The Asian guys are Asian stereotypes. The Italian guys are just oozing Italian stereotypes. And it all kind of works in this really bizarre way. So that's kind of like a starting point. What are some of the things that you like in this movie?
Well,
there's plenty.
I want to set up initially the story that we read from IMDb does kind of tell you the great overview, but essentially what happens are they're Italian and I think they're Chinese, different drug lords. Yeah. Basically, the Italians are controlling Chicago and they're distributing and selling heroin, and the Chinese drug lords are the ones that are supplying the heroin. And at the beginning of the movie, Nick Mancuso plays Antonio Serrano. He is in China and he's witnessing this like pole fight or whatever, like two guys fighting. And he tells the leader, Kinman, of the Chinese drug lords, that he wants part of the cut because he's risking his ass by having his guys on the street, essentially. And Kinman does not agree to this. Back in Chicago, it's California. Jake Lowe goes to a party and he sees Serrano kills one of the Chinese drug lords, underlings, and that kicks off this gang war. It's the first time, supposedly, they say in the movie that Serrano has actually killed someone on his own in years because he usually has his henchmen to do it, and Jake Lowe is the only person that can finger him to say, that's the guy that did it. So the feds take him into...
Like a photorealistic drawing that he does of this guy.
Jake Lowe is like an artist. He's in college as an artist. And so the feds take him in and they're protecting him so he can testify. Well, the feds are actually being paid by Serrano, so they're trying to kill him too once they have him in custody, especially when they transfer him to Chicago where the trial is going to take place. These federal agents try to kill him. He beats them up pretty well, and then he gets away, and that's when the Chicago police kind of take him into custody, and that's where they help him out. So I wanted to get that out of the way because it's kind of, while the story is pretty complete, there are just little things, and you're kind of like, we're going to just talk about these things off the cuff, and if you're listening to this and you've never seen the movie, you're going to be like, what? Why? What the fuck are they talking about? So I just want to kind of throw that out there. So to double down on what you said, I think the action scenes in this movie are amazing. Like, this is obviously Bruce Lee's son, so he has quite a reputation to live up to. He has a physique very similar to Bruce Lee. He's a little taller and he might be a little thicker because Bruce Lee
looks a little bigger.
Yeah, Bruce Lee is like notoriously tiny. And the thing that I find interesting is that in this movie, I think that Brandon Lee actually takes more inspiration from Jackie Chan. Like the action scenes that happen, the way he plays with environmental things, like, the throwing the drawer full of silverware in the guy's face and using a chair to like kick the guy and kick the door in the guy's face and all this stuff. And I think that he actually was on record saying that, this is more inspired by a Jackie Chan kind of film because, Jackie Chan does the crazy chaotic, like does his own stunts and all this stuff. It's just crazy chaos when Jackie Chan's on screen. So I feel like the action, while he looks a lot like Bruce Lee, he moves and acts a little bit more like Jackie Chan. He kind of blends the two. And I thought that was a really cool thing to be able to see visually, that he's doing all these moves. I mean, he's doing all the martial arts, all the karate stuff. So that's really cool to see. I love the scene. You brought it up when they're interviewing Jake and he's sketching the picture and they tell him, this is just kind of a silly thing. They're like, hey, we want the feds want him to look through a book, like the mugshot book. Jake says, he's not in the books. And they're like, he's in the books. And Jake says, he's not in the books. and they snatch the thing that he's drawing. And the Raymond Barry says, that's Serrano. It's like, how would they know who that is if he's not in the books?
Right.
He's not in the books. Oh, no, he's in the books. I remember when I saw this initially, and I've always remembered this, how cool I thought it was that the Chicago police have a makeshift headquarters in a bowling alley. And I thought that was the coolest fucking thing.
One of my favorite scenes is in the bowling alley when Mace or whatever, he, like several times, I think there's like 2 or 3 times where he stops and goes and bowls. And he always leaves one pin. And I love the last time he does it, he pulls out his fucking pistol and just blows this pin the fuck away. And the thing that I love about it, and I know they're like kind of using this bowling alley as like a makeshift police station or headquarters or whatever, but there's like at least 10 people in the background. Not a goddamn one of them. Not a single fucking one of them blinks, looks over, freak, nothing. It's like him blowing this pin away with a firearm is like the most acceptable thing that, and like, it's like someone ordering a beer in a bowling alley. They're just like, yep, that guy just shot a pin. Well, yeah, no problem. So I thought I laughed my ass off at that. So
the best part is after he does it, he turns around and they're the other cops there and they're looking at him. They're smiling at him. They're like laughing at him like, oh, I did it again. You know, this crazy fucker. He shot the bowling pin again. What's this guy's problem?
Right. And again, I gotta think that at any level of law enforcement, pulling your firearm to blow away a pin is probably frowned upon.
Yeah, they probably don't like that too much. They might have to account for that. I also want to say the scene in that apartment, in that Chicago apartment, with the kicking the doors and breaking the guy's nose and all the silencer shots and the everything in that scene, that whole extended scene is just great. And there's a part that I laugh when I watch because he escapes from these 2 feds that are shooting at him with these silver pistols that have silencers on them. And he runs into the separate room and kind of climbs up in this closet and closes the door. But he's wedged himself in the top of the closet so that he's not like on the level of the door. He's just kind of like, you know, he's wedged in there. And they fire into the door. And the first couple shots, you can tell it's like a motion picture. It's like video because he's moving around. Right. And then there's one part that's very obviously a freeze frame. Yeah, still. And they just like superimpose the light streams and the bullet holes and stuff as they come through. I laughed at that. I captured that. I was like, should I post this? I don't know. It's not like the best. That whole scene is really cool, but that specific part is what I laugh at a lot. And it's not, I don't know if it's necessarily capture worthy. And then I love so many of the fight scenes. There's nothing to not like about the fights and the scenes in this movie, but when they go visit the head agent Barry in his house, and they're like, we just came to talk. And then they proceed to beat the shit out of him and throw him through the curio cabinet. Yes. And the wife comes out and she's like, oh, Bobby or whatever your name is. And he's like,
it's fine.
Yeah, Martha, it's fine. They just came to talk. Meanwhile, he's just like, blood's just like oozing out of every orifice, every pore of his face.
This cabinet is like roughly the size of a porta potty that he just got thrown through. And there's, blood all over the place, glass everywhere. And I like how as they start having this conversation, the wife is still sitting there just like, what, just not knowing what to say. And he, like every other sentence or so, he's like, I'm fine. Just kind of moves on.
Just getting bounced around like a pinball inside this foyer of his house.
Yeah. And that's the thing about this movie. Like we probably could go on longer than the runtime of this movie just talking about all the fight scenes. These scenes are so, from a movie perspective, I don't know that they feel narrative necessarily, but they're just fun as hell. Like they mix every kind, like this isn't like a straight kung fu movie. This isn't a straight like cop movie. This is a mix of like, you know, the Jackie Chan descriptor is a pretty good one because just about every fight in this movie mixes, you know, gunshots, weapons, like hand-to-hand combat, all this shit, and it plays out. I don't know if it's just editing or what they did with it, or probably a combination of both. It just is this wonderful little contained, chaotic, you know, roller coaster ride of fight sequences. And it's almost enough to make you, you know, the storyline for this movie is like incredibly simple. It's guy witnesses crime, criminals go after guy. That's really what this movie is. they really just nail it like the whole way. They nail like enough. They give you just enough to be like, this isn't going to be Oscar worthy, but this is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And if that's what they set out to do, I mean, yeah, holy shit. Did you hit the nail on the head with that one? I mean, I don't want to gush too long about it. Do you have any I'm guessing there's not going to be a lot of dislikes here, but do you have any nitpicks on this movie?
I do. Nick Mancuso, Antonio Serrano, his like over the top Italian accent that just really starts to ooze out is one thing. It's not a negative. I just laugh. It's like, dude, could you be any more stereotypically Italian in this movie? Is that possible? Yeah. Jake, he's a student, but when he needs to be, he's a killing machine. And the first time somebody gets killed, that he kills somebody, he looks like, oh my God, I killed somebody. He's remorseful. Everything before that, he's kicking the shit out of people and there's no like concern. But by the end of the movie, he's just like the Terminator. You know, he's just like some college kid, but he's like, oh yeah, I'm cool with just killing everybody. I think while this is a stunt showcase, yeah, just another day. This is a stunt showcase, right? The stunts are pulled off like really well, but there are certain things, especially like jumping or vaulting kind of scenes where there's one scene where he's fighting a guy and they start shooting at him, or the guy's holding him or something, and he does like a backflip over him and the guy gets shot. And he does this backflip that's like 20 feet in the air and the guy gets shot and then he lands behind him. And it's just, some of it could have been, I don't know, again, nitpicks could have been worked in a little bit better. The other thing that, besides the whole like Jake and Mace relationship where they've known each other for like 3 days and they're in love with each other, you know, they're just having this like bromance within 3 days and they're like inseparable. There is an actual love scene in this movie and it is just so weird and it seems so wedged in. They're talking about Jake's missing his dead dad. That's the conversation between him and the woman.
Yes.
Then like some guitar ballad starts playing like, hell, and they start having this thing and then they're getting at it. And in the meantime, it's all these people, this montage of officers like raiding this Chinese laundry looking for drugs. They're just getting to boning in between. It's like, did this need to be in here? Like, this is an hour and 35 minutes. We know that an hour and 20 can be a movie. It's fine.
I think the love scene is kind of funny because there's actually another love interest at the beginning of the movie. And they go through the trouble of making Jake like kind of save her, or at least make sure she gets out of this thing safely. Like you're led to believe this model at the beginning of the movie is going to be the love interest. Like I initially went into this thinking like until she just disappears, like, oh, okay, this is going to be they're after both of them and he's basically defending her for the next hour and a half or whatever. In like 5 minutes, she's just fucking gone. Yeah. Like, and she just disappears.
Like, it gets dark. She just steps in the background. It's just dark and she just like fades out. You never see her again.
And then the other chick, was that Carla or whatever, the other cop that he hooks up with shows up and eventually they like bone. So whatever. So I think that's kind of funny that there's a implied relationship that you think they're going to build through the movie, and within like 10 minutes you're like, nah, she's kind of boring. Let's just whatever. So that's, you know, whatever that is. I think my biggest, this is a nitpick because I don't necessarily like in this particular movie, I'm okay with it, but I felt like this movie was ending like 3 times before it actually ended. Like there's a couple big, huge, drawn out fight scenes that feel very much so like a third act fight scene. And like specifically when Soriano gets his in the movie, I was like, this has got to be wrapping up here. Like they're all right. They did the big fight scene. They got him wherever, whatever happened to him happened to him. I'm dancing around it so I don't totally spoil it. Now we have all the cops and Jake outside by the ambulance. Like this looks like we're about to roll credits here. There's like another 20 minutes of the movie after this, at least like 20, 30 minutes with another like big boss fight after that. So I was like, oh, and again, this isn't like a watch check movie in the sense like, oh, I'm bored. This is a watch check in the sense like, wait, why are we is this not done? Like that kind of throws you off things. So that's a little bit weird. The other nitpick that I have and again, this is a very, very minor nitpick because at the end of the day, like the movie's still entertaining even with this in there. I think it's funny that this guy goes from like witness of a crime to like police sanctioned super killing machine over the course of a couple days, because they're not just like, so again, I'm not a police officer, but I got to think if you have a kid who is, and I say kid on purpose, who is a witness to a crime, which would be a federal, like, you know, prosecution type thing, I would think the last thing you want to do is use him as a operative to go into a place where you're very likely going to have a lot of dangerous shit going on. Like, I think he would probably be in some sort of witness protection program where they're trying to keep him away from things like, I don't know, stray bullets and knives and whatever else they get into. But no, he's just like, nope, I'm gonna, like, you know, Mace is just like, all right, Jake, let's go kick the shit out of these guys. All right, Mace, let's go. And it just turns into almost feels like a buddy cop movie by the end of it.
Yeah, and they use him for bait, essentially.
Yeah, but he also wants that. Like, he wants to go kick the shit out of all these guys. So it's kind of weird in like using like a real world brain. Like, I don't think that if these were actual police officers that this is how this would play out at all. I'm not complaining, because if they did that, this would be a boring movie. Like, you obviously don't put Brandon Lee in a movie like this to have him go sit on a stack
of boxes
resort, or somewhere where yes, like Lou Ferrigno. I don't think that's why you put him in this movie. So it works the way it is, but it is weird logic to have him doing any of this shit, because he should be, I don't want to say in jail, but he should, I mean, maybe he should. He does murder like at least like 500 people in this movie. He should be kind of, kick gloves until he can presumably testify against the people you're trying to arrest, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, he's just a killing machine at a certain part of this movie. And it just seems out of place, especially considering that he's just some college kid that was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, and they don't ever really say, like, I mean, I know we know he's Bruce Lee's kid, but there's no point where they say in the movie, like,
God damn, this kid knows some fucking martial arts, man. What the hell?
But there's never like a backstory like, oh, I'm in art school, but I grew up with Pai Mei or whatever, learning kung fu next to Uma Thurman. Like, I don't remember anything like that.
His dad is supposed to be like some kind of military operative that teaches them. It's just a throwaway kind of line where they say that his dad is like a trainer of some like elite force in these. Because I remember they do mention Muay Thai and Wing Chun and like one other.
Yeah, they like butcher it.
Yeah, they name some other martial art. Shit. And it's just kind of thrown, He teaches them karate and kung fu and stuff. I mean, that's just like literally that's it. And then they just move on from it. So it's just a passing statement.
So again, I don't really want to kind of push this like into the ground, because I really think that this is a movie that if you haven't seen and you like action movies, period, like I'll even go as far to say if you like action movies, like I don't care what decade, this is probably one that you need to add to your watch list. And I think you can guess where hot dogs are going to go here in a minute. Do you have anything you want to like kind of hit on before we start to fire up the grill?
No, I think my Jerry Springer closing thoughts, I'll have some extra stuff, but we can get to that.
Right. Then you're in for a big treat, bro. Yeah, because it's hot dog time.
So since you have a Jerry Springer closing thought, I'll go ahead and lead us off so you can have the final word on it. Again, first time watch, only had a chance to watch it once this week. I can guarantee you I will go back to this movie at some point. I don't know when, but I will absolutely watch this again. This movie is just a hell of a lot of fun. Again, with all due respect to The Crow, this is the movie that Brendan Lee should be remembered for, because it is that much fucking fun. Or at least it should be remembered in addition to The Crow, because it's so over the top, it's so ridiculous, and it's just nonstop balls to the wall craziness. And there's never a point where a lot of movies like this, you could almost be like, this is cheesy, this is schlocky, this is getting stupid. It never hits that point. It stays entertaining the entire time. Even when you're like, this should have been over like 20 minutes ago, it's still fucking entertaining as you're watching it go on. So it uses its hour and 35 minutes for the most part really well. Even the things that either of us had said are kind of nitpicky things, or kind of like, that's kind of dumb things, those things that you can nitpick, they're and gone so quick that it's like you literally, if you sneeze, you're gonna miss at least. Like that's probably how I missed the line about his dad being a, Green Beret or whatever the fuck he was. Like I probably just sneezed and burped or something. So it's a simple enough movie that this is like a definitive, like, get some buddies, get some beers, watch this and just have a fucking good time. It's all the hot dogs, just throw them at them all wet and like put them on a bun, lather them up, give them out to everyone. So it gets the hot dogs. This is a fun fucking movie.
Whose hot dog is this? Huh? Is it yours?
I think for me, this is like a quintessential 90s action martial arts movie. It's 92, but it feels so much fresher than a movie, because I still think of a lot of movies from 90, 91, 92 still feel very much like 80s movies. And this one to me feels like almost the signal of the start of the 90s for action movies. I saw this in the theater. Like I said, I have a strong memory of watching this in the theater and watching it at home with my sister on VHS. And for those reasons, like this is almost like a comfort watch for me. It's like comfort food, but in movie form. Are the stunts pretty ridiculous? Yeah. Are the relationships pretty ridiculous? Yeah. But I can't complain more outside of that. I'll never get over the makeshift police headquarters in a bowling alley. That'll stick in my mind even through like the thralls of Alzheimer's. I'll probably still remember, oh yeah, in Rapid Fire, they had a fucking bowling alley as the headquarters. That was so cool. For me, obviously, Rapid Fire is a full hot dog. Like this is, if you're into action movies at all and you haven't seen this is, I would say, why are you listening to this? Go watch that and then come back and listen again. That would be my recommendation.
I think it's a fair recommendation. This week, you can blame me for this. I forgot to do a question of the week, so we don't have one. So I apologize. This is a little bit shorter episode this week, but we'll make up for it at some point. We'll spend 6 hours talking about nostril picker again or something. You can find that episode, though, and all of our other episodes. You can go to our site, crap.town. Nostril picker is there. Rapid Fire is there. All the good stuff is going to be there. And some of the bad stuff, too. That's our site. If you have any other movies, if you know of a good female-led action movie, you can drop comments there. You can send us direct messages. We like hearing from you and like getting ideas of other movies that we should watch or maybe are blind spots for us or that we just want to revisit. You can also reach us on social media. We're at Dewey Pod Monster on pretty much everything. On Blue Sky, though, we are at crap.town. Again, you can message us there too. Social media is where we usually will drop the question of the week when I remember to do it. And then, of course, please do go to yourunpodcast.com. We are You Run Podcast Network members and would love for you to take the time to not only check us out there, but check out one of the other shows that's on yourunpodcast.com. They're all great and absolutely worth your time. Sean, what am I forgetting?
Well, when John doesn't forget to post a social media question of the week, they're on social media and they're on the ones that he cares about. And we're pretty much at Dewey Pod Monster or at crap.town on Blue Sky. If we talked about anything in this episode that interests you, that piques your interest, that tickles your fancy, that tickles your pickle, we will leave them in the show notes. So we'll probably leave a link to Rapid Fire if we can find it somewhere for free. We try to do everything, link everything to free places so you don't have to pay to, because that sucks to have to pay to watch cool stuff and hot garbage that we watch. But if you do have to pay for it, our platform of choice is Amazon. We'll have everything linked that we talk about in the show notes. If it says Amazon next to it, that's an affiliate link. If you click one of those links, you buy something, we get a small portion of what you bought, or not a small portion. They don't send us like a G.I. Joe hand from a G.I. Joe that you order. But if you order, cool. That would be cool. Like we could use them for ransom or make one of those like ransom notes and shit. But if you were to buy like
them all together and make a mutant
make
G.I.
just
Joe
a big
out
hand
of parts
or something. If you buy $100 worth of merchandise, for example, we get maybe like a penny out of that. So that's pretty cool. Like we can pay some bills around here. But that's really the best way to support the podcast. The other great way to support the podcast is tell your friends about it. Tell them, hey, I know some guys that talk about stupid movies and sometimes they're good movies like Rapid Fire. And you'll like them because you like stupid stuff too. Or if you leave a review on your podcast platform of choice, that helps get kind of spread the word virtually, I guess. Maybe we show up higher in algorithms or some bullshit. So you can do that. You can follow me on social media. I am on Blue Sky exclusively. I am at internalbleeding.crap.town on the Blue Sky.
On the Blue Sky. Sorry, I got distracted looking at pictures from Rapid Fire. That's it. That's all we got for this week. Thanks for hanging out with us. Swill up, Butthorns, and we'll be back next week with some more shenanigans.
Swill up. Bird season's over, Butthorn. Blah, blah, blah.